Okay, so thank you, Tina, for the kind of big overview of the college planning process. And then, as you can see from the slide, I'm not going to take over from here. And then let me first briefly introduce myself. I know I look young, but I got my PhD in industrial engineering and operation research. For some of you who haven't heard of this major, this is an engineering major, but with focus on mathematics and the statistics. And I did my postdoc training at Stanford more than 10 years ago, so that tells my age. And I'm currently a tenured engineering professor in College of Engineering and Computer Science. And so over the last 16 years, I have helped 1,000 students with their math, stats, academic writing and reading, ranging from high school students to doctoral students. I have actually graduated 3 PhD students myself, and supervising not just their courses, but also help them finish their dissertation. So without saying too much about that, and let's look at the things you care the most about. Tina mentioned several standardized tests that students want to take. For example, SAT, ACT, SAT subject, and AP. Today, we'll only focus on ACT and SAT, although we do help students with other standardized tests as well. Okay, so first thing you want to do, probably most of you wondering, is that whether you should take ACT or SAT, or whether you should take both to make yourself more competitive. And here are the questions we have received from parents or students many, many times. So first, how they are different, and which one will give you a better score. Is one easier than the other? And the last, probably is also the most important. Which one can be improved faster within a short period of time, right? That's what most of you care about. Now, these are very good questions. However, the answers to these questions are not very straightforward as you might think. I cannot tell you, okay, and the SAT can be improved faster than SAT. Okay, that all depends on you, your your learning styles, and your test taking strength. Depending on these factors, then you will decide, and we will help you decide which test is a better suit for you. Or maybe you're a very strong candidate for both tests. Oops, what happened? Oops. Oops, what happened here? I just want to move this away. I cannot do that. Can you move this?
You need to see this?
No, just minimize this. I don't need to see this. That's not. Okay, sorry about the interruption. Okay, so for those of you, let me go back, skip one here. This is not my computer, so kind of a little bit trouble using that. Okay, so for those who are not familiar with the score conversion of the two tests, and here I'm just showing you the comparison between the two. Now for SAT, the full score, or the perfect score, is 1,600. 800 comes from reading and writing, and the other 800 comes from math. For ACT, the perfect score is 36. And the composite ACT score is actually calculated based on the average of 4 required sections. I will show you what these required sections are. But the 36 here you see is the average score from all these 4 sections. For SAT, it's the sum of the scores from the 2 parts, reading and writing and math. Right? Okay, so here's a comparison of the test structure, which I think is more important than the previous slide. Now, as you can see from this slide, now both tests have 4 required sections. For SAT, the 4 required sections are reading, writing, math without calculator, and math with calculator. There's no science section in SAT, okay, which may be good or bad news for some of the students. Then for ACT, the 4 required sections are reading, English, which is equivalent to the writing section in SAT, math, and the science. Both tests have an optional section for essay. Now we say it's optional, they say it's optional, which is not really optional for most students here, because in order to get a good score, a good college, they do require essay. The last column shows you the total amount of time. They are very similar in terms of the amount of time, the total amount of time you have spent during the entire test. SAT is slightly longer, 15 minutes longer, but it doesn't matter that much in the test. And what I want to emphasize, I want to point out, is the time you have for each question. And that's the, I mean, for me, based on my experience with working with many students, that's the deciding factor, very important deciding factor for you to decide whether you should choose SAT or ACT. For ACT, the speed is much, much faster. Okay, for each question, basically for all the questions, you have less than 1 minute, some close to only 30 seconds to finish each question on average for ACT. SAT give you more time. Okay, so if you're a deep thinker, but you solve problem more slowly, SAT is your thing. Okay, and don't take ACT. And ACT tests you speed. That also means the knowledge they test you is kind of shallower. Okay, they don't require you to think a lot during the ACT, your first response. Okay, of course, your first response has to be correct, otherwise you'll get it wrong. Okay, so from that slide, I hope the key takeaway is that if you're a fast problem solver, but you don't think that deep, ACT is your thing. SAT is a deep thinker, but takes a little bit longer to solve a problem. SAT is your better bet.
And I kind of feel like SAT is like more tricky. So the question has like more regulation. Yeah. I'll talk about that later.
Okay, and here I just want to, as I mentioned earlier, in SAT, reading and writing actually combine together into one single score. And the 2 sections in math, calculator and non-calculator, are combined into the one math score. Okay, so let's now zoom into the math part. And I mentioned earlier, for SAT, there's a non-calculator section and a calculator section. And the ACT, only calculator section. Okay, is that good news for you? I don't think so, because even for the problems that appear in the calculator section, actually, I don't suggest you to use a calculator unless absolutely necessary. What do I mean? Only if you need to solve problems involving very complicated calculations, you use calculator. Otherwise, train yourself not using calculator at all for 2 reasons. First, using calculator will slow you down, okay? And also error prone. Because during a test, it may be possible that you enter a wrong number. Now, calculator is very useful only if you tell the calculator doing the right thing. Second reason, while you are training for yourself during a test, without using calculator, you are forcing yourself to develop a very good number sense. Now, for both tests, for the multiple choice questions, most of the time, you don't really need to know the exact answer before you know which one must be the correct answer. That saves the time. Right? Why would you need to find the exact answer in order to know which one to pick? For multiple choice questions, the correct answer is in front of you. Having a good number sense will help you to eliminate those wrong answer choices. If there's only one that is left, that must be correct answer. Okay, so again, even ACT allows you to use calculator. I would say 90% of questions can be answered without calculator, and you can solve this problem much more quickly. And in terms of question type, SAT still keeps its grading questions. Grading questions means the questions that you have to produce the answer. There's no multiple choice guide you. 80% of the multiple choice questions, ACT only multiple choice questions. Okay, that's again the reason why ACT requires you to solve problem much more quickly. For multiple choice questions, they are always easier and faster to solve than the grading questions. And in terms of the focuses, as you can see for SAT, algebra, problem solving, and the data analysis, these three parts accounts for 90% of all the questions in SAT. For ACT, on the other hand, geometry stands out as the most important part. So that tells you if you're relatively strong in geometry and trigonometry, you'll probably want to take ACT. Okay, our ACT can give you better comparative advantage. But for SAT, if you're very good at algebra, but you don't like geometry, or you're kind of relatively weak in geometry or trigonometry, and that SAT is your better bet. And in terms of content coverage, as I mentioned earlier, ACT tests you wider but shallower content. They test you speed. SAT deeper but narrower. Okay, for ACT, you may see questions coming from logarithmic function, matrices, sequences, permutation, and combination. These are pre-calculus topics. You will not see them in SAT. Okay, so here's a comparison between the two tests in terms of science. SAT does not have a science section, but that does not mean College Board does not want to test your science knowledge. They will. How they will test you, they put that in the science passage. There are two science reading passages, and some passage contain graphs and the tables. So they use this to test your knowledge of science. But one good news is that for both SAT and the ACT, you don't really need to know very advanced scientific knowledge in order to do well in these two tests. Both tests actually require you to have a very strong, a very good scientific reasoning skill, strong reading skill, not really the basic science knowledge. Okay. But ACT, since it has its own science section, it definitely has more questions and more complicated science questions than what you will see in SAT. Now, both tests they now have more experiment questions. You will see the experiment questions in science passage in SAT, but ACT, 3 of the 6 passages are research summary passages. So for both of them, they want you to be able to understand experiments. For SAT, all the questions basically test your understanding of the findings. For ACT, they may test you knowledge of experiment design. They will ask you how the experiment was designed. For example, what's the control variable, what's the independent, what's the dependent. You'll also see complex graphs in ACT science. And the graphs you see in SAT are much simpler. Okay, like you said, good news is that you really don't need advanced scientific knowledge to do well in SAT or ACT. All you need is your ability to read well, your ability to do good scientific reasoning. Okay, that's all you need to do well in the science passages from SAT and the ACT science passage. Okay, although the section title looks very misleading, okay?
All right, it's my turn. Okay. All right, so yeah, I can do it. Thank you. All right, so now I want to talk about the reading section, okay? And because some of the kids were asking me, say like, hey, I'm coming here to hear some academic, important tricks. So I hope like today, after 1 hour, 2 hours talking, you just tell me what I'm gonna do and I'm gonna get a high score. So typically I would just give you some trick and very important information so you can remember today. But to be honest, I cannot help you to improve within 1 hour, okay? But fortunately, I can give you some inspiration, so maybe you can have some better understanding, okay? All right, so here is the difference between SAT and ACT. And I strongly believe you don't trust yourself and you don't know yourself that much. Some kids, they told me I did mock tests and my ACT did better than SAT. So that's why I want to choose ACT, okay? Don't trust the first mock test. Well, that only shows like what you're doing right now. It doesn't show how much you can improve. So I have some kids here. So one of the kids, they did very good in the ACT at a mock test. It got like 32, which is awesome, right? Because 32 to 35 and 36 is almost a little bit, right? But he kept practicing, and result in the 32 as well in a final test. This is a very sad story, okay? But I have to tell you. And there's another kid, SAT. When he first came here, he got like 1,200. And he told me, oh my God, I'm gonna die. No, there's no chance for me. And I say, wait a little bit. And after 13 hours training, he got 1,470 in the October test. And his daddy told me, this is the best score in his life. Okay, we're done, okay? So this is the good case. So don't trust yourself according to the mock test. Okay, check the difference. So for the reading section, SAT passage, 5 reading passages. And ACT passage is 4 reading passage, 85 lines for each passage. It seems like it's a little bit less, right? However, okay, we all have like 2 eyes, and usually our eyes is not big enough to grab all the information, right? So you really want to miss some information, and then you feel like, oh, I didn't say that. Oh, I forgot that. Oh, I didn't read that. And then you got some dumb mistake. So when ACT you made mistake, you hate yourself so much because they're almost all dumb mistake, okay? You feel like, oh my God, I want to slap myself. Why didn't I say that, you know? But for SAT, if you get it, you get it. If you didn't get it, you feel like more happy because they trick you. It's not your fault, you know? It's their fault. So in that situation, I feel like SAT feels better, okay? So another part is like the question type. So you can tell for the SAT question, the question type is primarily focused on the big picture. So as long as you know the passages, you understand the big picture, you know the main point, the main idea, you can get right answer for sure. But ACT, you can tell, they focus everything, especially detailed question. They give a lot of question for detail. Come on, we're living in a world like we need to focus on the direction, the big picture, right? We don't want to train our kids to feel like, oh, I just want to pay attention to the small detail. We don't want to be like that, right? So now either ACT, they try to change. They try to copy the SAT, the question type. So they give you more and more big picture. But they don't want to do exactly the same way. So that's why, I mean, they do something really, some of the questions really awkward, okay? And for the topics, you can feel like the SAT is kind of like, you know, well-rounded, overall cover everything. So sometimes if you have some basic knowledge or background knowledge, it's going to be easy for you, right? But for ACT, well, sometimes they choose some fiction. It's from like hundreds of years ago. Some of the grammar even have like a grammar era. I mean, at that time it's not called grammar era, but you don't do it right now. So the passage read sometimes is like really awkward. Okay, so you don't feel comfortable, all right? So let's check one more about the writing part. For writing part, they're so funny, okay? That's why a lot of misunderstanding. For ACT, the writing part is called English, okay? And for SAT, the writing part is grammar, right? It's the same part. But for ACT, the essay is called writing, okay? For SAT, the essay is called essay. So it's kind of like, you know, you have to be clear, okay? So for the writing section, let's see. SAT, 4 passages. ACT, 5 passages. Definitely more work to do. SAT, they focus on a big picture question. And they get like a grammar question. They give like reading, editing, and they do almost the same thing. But same question type, less passages. So of course, SAT easier, right? So for the topics, almost same thing. Okay, they're almost the same. Now let's do the most important part, essay part. How many of you have heard about like new SAT essay? Huh? How many of you? Okay. How about ACT essay? Do you know they changed it also? No? Okay, they changed. Okay. The 2 tests is really funny. They're like competing all the time. SAT essay is asked you to read a passage, then write analysis passages, which is like rhetorical analysis. Okay? But ACT still ask your opinion. Well, you will feel like, oh my God, ask my opinion. I have a lot of opinion to say. That's why I want to choose ACT. Wrong, okay? Why? Because ACT, they give you 3 different opinions. They ask you to argue with either 3 of them or have your own idea or just choose one, agree and disagree with the other 2. So don't feel like this is a good way. This is really bad way. But for the student who are really like debating, I would say go for it, okay? But if you're not really good at debating and when you argue with your parents and you never win, okay, don't choose ACT, okay? Because you don't have enough evidence to convince the people to believe you, all right? So I have so many students like work on the ACT part, they turn out to be like stuck in the middle of nowhere. For example, they ask you, A, people should wear the safety belt all the time because this is for your safety. B, okay, people shouldn't. Okay, they should let them be free. Okay, this is the right. I have the right, I have my freedom to choose whether I want to wear the safety belt, I don't want to wear it. And C, oh, we should increase our social insurance to secure everybody, and when they have accident, the government should take care of everything. Okay, what is your opinion? All right, so it's very easy to choose your opinion, but when you try to argue and analyze everything, you feel like it's kind of like mess up. And when you go to the end, you already forgot what you want to say, okay? So that's most of my students, they did. And then they feel so frustrated, okay? And I have some bad experience because from my personality, you can tell I'm like very pushing, okay? I push my student a lot. I used to talk about ACT, like ASCII with one of the boy. The boy is very strong and the very like muscle guy, okay? And he cried in my class. And I asked him like, why? He's like, I just feel frustrated. He's a very nice boy, very shy, never want to argue with anybody, and a very high GPA, but he just feel like frustrated in ACT. And then we changed to SAT immediately, and he got a pretty good score, okay? So just to calm down and ask yourself and try a little bit more to see which one you want to choose, okay? So why we see this step is very important, because a lot of kids, you know, they're very motivated. They choose both SAT and SAT. Good job, I want to do that. But if you're not that energetic, like what I am, you have to choose only one. And when you choose one, you don't want to choose the easy one. There's no easy way, okay? Choose the one you feel like it might be possible for you to change or to improve, all right? So now we go to another step. Choose the right practice materials, okay? So here I want to talk about more about choosing the right practice material. We're talking with Dr. Yan, okay? All right, we say a lot of students, the parents, they told us what they told us. They say, oh, teacher, Dr. Liu, Dr. Yan, can you tell me what book I can buy for my kids? Okay, this is nice parents. Some parents were not that nice. They bought everything, okay? They bought everything. They put it on the table. They say, oh, okay, here is all the books. You're going to finish all of them, and then you go to the test. You will be fine, okay? And we have so many kids like that, and they struggle so much. They have to study until 2 a.m. in the morning, and they didn't finish. And when they finish, they repeating their mistake all the time. They did a 7 in this test. They did a 6 mistake in that test. Then they reduced to 3. They say, oh yeah, finally 3. And then they got to 10 mistake in next practice, okay? So at every time they're changing, and they have no idea why they're changing like that, okay? So we were talking with Dr. Yeah, I was like, why they do that? Because, you know, overall, I mean, all around the world, everybody has the right to write a book, right? And if you just pay more attention, because we do the job, we just compare the books from books. Okay, some of the books, they copy each other. And then they change a little bit. And then they say, oh, here, this is our new practice. Okay, and some of them, they never ever try the real test. Maybe the writer of the book never go to the SAT test. They write a book about SAT. So I'm not sure, like, I'm not saying like they cannot improve. Of course, they can practice your ability, improve your overall reading skill, writing skill. But it just doesn't help that much. You know what I mean? Okay, there's another way. It's like, okay, now there's another kind of student. They say, I don't want to go any kind of like books. I'm not taking on this practice. I'm just follow Kahan, College Board. Okay, and then every time he got a perfect score. He never make mistake. And then he went to the real test. Okay, truth came out. And he doesn't understand. And we find out this tricky part. Every time they release the real test, okay, they give you the easy one. And every time they won't release, they give you a challenge. They give you a hard one. Why they're so bad? I'm sorry, this is reality. Because they have to use the score to choose the student who are already qualified for the college, who are already academically qualified for the college. That's why they have to do that, okay? Don't tell me American education system, they don't need any kind of like standard test or something like that. They did. But the difference is like, they didn't tell you from the beginning till the end. Until your score came out, until the college started choosing the student, and even the college started choosing a student, they won't tell you like, oh, I'm going to choosing the high score one. They won't say. They say, no, it doesn't matter. But after the result came out, you can see the people who get into this college, how much score they can get, you know? It's kind of like, it's like untotable. Or how to say, like, we cannot say that, okay? You just like have to be nice, okay? Okay, all right. So here is our question and a practice test, okay? So this way, I think like Dr. Yan has a lot to say, okay? Do you want to share a little bit here?
Okay, so Joe already told you that we found out the practice books from the market do not resemble the real test. And the College Board official guide or ACT official guide are too easy. So what can you do? So we come up with our own question-based and practice tests, which keep up to date with the trends and the new question types we observe from the most recent real tests. And so we either go to the test ourselves or we get firsthand information from the real test, and we modify the test base. Now we know new SATs has changed, dramatic change, but College Board is still doing some minor tricks into the test. So we don't know what we're gonna do in the next test. Okay, so we need to go to the real test and to see what they are doing. For ACT, although ACT does not tell us they are changing, actually they are changing in a minor way. But the minor way can affect you. For example, we have noticed that the ACT math questions have more probability in statistics questions. They didn't tell you. Okay, I have just one student who took ACT this morning, and then she told me, okay, the teacher, I think the method is a bit weird because it showed some question types that she didn't see in the official guide. But I kind of predict that. I told her that. I kind of gave her her lecture just on probability, statistics. Okay, so we go to the test or we get first-hand information from this test. That's how we're gonna kind of design our question base and the practice test. So this practice resemble the real test in the difficult level, the reading passage, and the question types, as well as the percentage of question distribution. Okay, step 3. Now, suppose you have got your practice and you have started working on your practice. What can you do? The best or the most effective way to improve your score is to be very ruthless with your weak points. I do mean that literally, ruthless. How can you find out your weak points? By studying each and every mistake you make in your practice. No mistakes are excusable. Don't find excuses for yourself for the mistake. Okay, treat each mistake seriously. And we have analyzed the reasons why student makes mistakes, and they fall into these 5 main categories. First one, very obvious to you can identify, you have a content gap. You really don't know how to solve this problem. Okay, and if that's your problem, and that's the first thing you need to do, fill that gap. Now, if you tend to run out of time, if I give you extra 30 minutes, you could finish the problem perfectly, but you cannot finish within the allocated time. You have a time management issue. Either you don't pace yourself very well, you try to be perfect, so you're stuck with one problem for too long, then you don't have time to finish the rest questions. That happens often, okay, for students, especially in the real test. And question comprehension, you tend to misread or misunderstand what problems really mean. What does that tell you? That tells you you need to slow down while you're reading the question. I know students feel rushed when they get to the exam, right? They say, oh, I need to do fast. And however, you want to save your time by solving your problem smartly. Don't by reading your question too fast. ETS or College Board or ACT, they put some traps into the questions. They bet students will read, when they read fast, they're gonna miss some very important words. So for example, if I change the problem from percent or to percent change, the answer will be totally different. You don't want to solve the problem. What's the point of spending your time solving the wrong problem? Okay, so if you figure out you tend to misunderstand the problem, slow down while reading the question. If you really don't understand what the question means, we need to tell you, we need to explain to you, okay? And okay, got trick, that happens very often in both math and the reading and the writing. The students don't understand what the test maker was trying to test. They spend too much time trying to understand a detail, but in fact, they're asking for a big picture. Okay, test nervousness, I don't know whether that applies to some of our students, but some students, they tend to feel nervous during the test. Okay, so how to overcome this? You need to practice mock tests. We put you in the real setting. We follow the same test structure. And after going through the mock test, like 5 or even like 10 times, and that will help you to get used to the test environment, and that help you to overcome the test nervousness. Okay, so again, I said no excuses for mistakes. And I know students will say, okay, I was careless. It was a careless mistake. Sorry, there are no careless mistakes in SAT or ACT. Now, if you keep making dumb mistakes over and over, that indicates 2 underlying reasons. First, you don't really have a solid foundation for the knowledge, okay? And how can you make mistakes 1 + 1 = 2, right? You don't make that mistake even if you rush. But if we give you a complicated problem under the time limit, if you rush, you make mistakes because you have not grasped the solid foundation for that problem. Okay, so careless means number one reason you don't really have a solid foundation for this type of problem. And the second reason that you have the problem of misunderstanding question. I told you, right? And you feel you rushed and you didn't understand the question correctly. Okay, that's too bad because the College Board or ACT, they put that trap into the test. They want you to fall into trap. That's not really a careless mistake. That's an indication you have a problem of comprehending questions. Okay.
Yeah, and there's only one way when you want to say you are careless. It's like, you know, for example, you try to fill a form. They ask you, have you ever done anything criminal? You said yes, but actually no. But that's called really dumb, okay? Well, we also have the situation like the students is kind of like, you know, really dumb, but most of the kids and most of the cases, there's no dumb mistake.
Okay, and I know preparing for the test is very stressful, and sometimes students feel, okay, why am I wasting my time doing this? Okay, but there's some good side, a positive side for preparing a test, and you want to use this opportunity to develop your problem-solving skills. Okay, think it positively, and that will can motivate you to work on to take this long journey. So here are the problem-solving skills that you can shape yourself up during this test preparation process. First, and some of the things probably more applicable to math or science, and most of them actually apply for both English, writing and reading, and math. First, type unfamiliar to familiar problems. I bet you will see unfamiliar problems in your real test because although they sometimes recycle problems, most of the time the problems are new. You have never seen the questions anywhere else. So you're definitely gonna see unfamiliar problem. But trust yourself, don't panic when you see an unfamiliar problem. You have learned everything you need to know to solve that problem. Okay? They cannot take a test you in knowledge that is not even covered in your high school curriculum or not in our training course. All you need to do is draw that linkage between unfamiliar to familiar problems. Okay, we need to train you that. You need to train yourself during this test preparation. Second, optimize effectiveness and efficiency. Okay, and that's my PhD dissertation, effectiveness and efficiency. And I don't know how many of you know the difference between the two. Effectiveness means that you need to shoot for accuracy. You need to be accurate. Okay, that's your number one goal. The second, efficiency in terms of the speed. Now, in order to get high score, you have to do well in both. However, if you have to trade off between the two, you have to put your weight on the accuracy, not speed. Right? If you don't shoot for 800, if your target score is not 800, you actually can give up some questions. You just don't spend time working on these questions. Focus on the ones that you're sure you can do very well. For example, if you're very strong in algebra, make sure you grab all the algebra problems. If you are not strong in trigonometry, give up that one. You want to, and that leads to the next one, prioritize time. You want to focus on time on the parts that you can do very well and then grab all these points. Okay, make sure that you can demonstrate the best yourself during the test. Your job is not finish all the questions. Okay, your job is to get all the questions correctly and and the best show of yourself. The final step by step. Okay, and that happens in the new SAT math. There are more multi-step problems, real world applications. We know in real life, you cannot just write one simple equation to solve the problem. In real life, they are sequence, right? So when you see these problems, don't try to do everything in calculator. Usually this question appears in the calculator section, okay? But that does not mean you need to use a calculator. I have seen a lot of students, when they see this problem, they start using a calculator. I tell them, slow down, write your equation down, write it down so you can see your step. These problems are multi-step problems. That means you should write the steps one by one and solve them. They don't expect you to solve the question within one step. If you don't do that, you're gonna miss these questions. Okay, very likely you're gonna miss these questions. Step by step, don't rush. Write the steps, the equation step by step, and then finally combine them together to solve these complicated problems.
All right, okay, so now we finished the serious topic. Now let's enjoy something fun, okay? And I know it's like a little bit long, but think about it. If we sit here for 2 hours, and then we feel long, right? We feel like long time. And our kid's gonna take 4 hours test, maybe sometimes a little bit more. And we try to criticize them like, hey, you should do it better. You shouldn't, You should concentrate, you should focus. That's really hard. That's why you have to practice. So for the mock test, like the Dr. Yan mentioned, we hope the kids can get the real test. That's why we just prefer them to come here to do the test. If possible, they do it online or they do at home. Probably you need to find your garage. You need to find somewhere which is like more like the real like test room, not in the bedroom. Come on, not in the kitchen, please. Not in the living room, okay? Not with the coffee, with the cookie around him, okay? That's not the right way, okay? All right, so let's talk about test designer's mindset. This is very important, and I hope they can give you the inspiration. So we need to figure out what the test writers think, right? If we can figure out what they're thinking, it's way easy for us to handle the problem they design. And we all know that they have the two writers. One is the passage writer, okay? One is test writer. The thing is, our kids spent so much energy and time on figuring out like how to understand about the passage writer's meaning. And they forgot one important thing. The passage writer has no relationship with you. They just write some passages like long time ago everywhere. But the test writer is the one who try to trick you, who try to challenge you, and who try to give you the hard time, okay? So what are they thinking? Let me give you some example. For example, how they create wrong answer choices. This is the topic, this kind of topics we always talk about in our class, okay? And from my past experiences, because I used to teach in New Oriental, which is like very 应试教育的这种 training, okay? And I know exactly how you're going to study test. You have studied test as a subject, not like overall improve your practice or whatever, okay? For example, every single answer choices, it will have one off topic for sure, sometimes two. If it's 3, that means this is easy level question. If this is 1, that means that's kind of like hard question, okay? If there's no off topic question, answer choices, that means this question is really challenging, okay? So the other one, they give you always 2 broad answer choices. For example, I'm talking about June, okay? I say June is an awesome teacher. Then you say every teacher is awesome. This is too broad. I talk specifically about June, about a teacher June and Yan, but you say every teacher, right? But not saying every teacher in the world, okay? Or too extreme. For example, I say, June, you look good today. And then they say, June, look gorgeous today, all right? That's called what? Too extreme, right? Usually those are wrong answers. Or half right, half wrong, could be true, but not enough information. So anyway, there's so many different ways to design the wrong answers. So we teach students from analyzing the wrong answers, and then we go to the right one. Because you can tell, not like all of them cannot find the right answer. They just like very easy to be tricked or to be influenced or distracted by the wrong answer choices, right? Tell me honest, how many of you guys always feel like, oh, I'm okay. I always like rule out 2 answers directly. Then just only left 2, either A or either B. And most of the time, I choose the wrong one. And if you have me to change again, I'm going to choose the right one, right? Of course, everybody had only one chance, either A or B, right? It's impossible, or it's like very little chance the students read the question, they have no idea what its full answer choices, which one to choose. You know what I mean? Okay, that's why you need to figure out what the test designer thinking. That's the most important thing. Do you agree with me? Yes, right? Okay. And if you don't feel like that's excited, okay, let's see how our course designed it, okay? So our course designed is like covered every subject, okay? So when I say every subject, that includes the reading, writing, essay, and math. There's only one option I allow the student to choose. For example, some kids say, I got a full score in the last test, so I don't need essay anymore. Good job, okay? But never ever tell me, my math is really strong. I don't need to train my math. And then they turn out to be reading out of 800 and then math missed a 2 or 1. You don't want to do that, okay? You want to make sure, okay, no error. This is for you, okay? So if your goal is no error, you can get 1 or 2. If your goal is like 1 or 2, you get a 3 and a 4, okay? Trust me. This is like what you want and what you can get, okay? That's the gap, okay? All right, and most of the time, we just teach you how to correct the question. When I say the question, what is the first thing I do? I would teach my students, for the passage, you only need to read the first sentence. You only read the first half of the answer choices. You can get the right answer immediately, okay? And in that situation, I save your time. And we analyze all the wrong answer choices, okay? And we analyze what's the regulation to show them. For example, whenever they give you a big picture or purpose question, they will give you a main idea, answer choices for sure. So that sounds like very true. So you immediately choose it, but you forget what they try to ask you, okay? So we analyze all the things, and also we put all the easy make mistake questions together, and we tell kids like how to crack it. So, and for the reading section, we really want to train the kids to know how to read the passages, okay? Instead of like looking for the looking for the answer, you need to know where the answer located when you do the first time reading, okay? For example, all the answers will be virtually located after transitional words. That's what we talk about it. And then we give the examples and showing the real test to show you like why what I say is so true, okay? All right, so the last but not least, we give you like specific question. We're not giving you the full test, only if you passed all the question style, okay? So we're starting from each question type. For example, today we're going to talk about a purpose question. All the question is about a purpose, okay? We give you the past, all the tasks, and we give you all different practice. We practice only on the function question, and we give you so many different types, okay? So make sure this question done. And then we move to the next one, correct, okay? Total together, 12 question types. You just need to work on each one of them. Then you combine them together. And then now it's time for you to try to speed up or try to get smoothie or try to familiar with everything, okay? Okay, here is our foundation build up and a 应试技巧. Okay, this is what I had a lecture when I was in China. I want to show this picture because some of the parents told me they used to be one of the New Oriental, 新东方, okay, 这个出国这个考试, okay. So kind of want to show you guys, okay, what is called hard time. So you guys are really lucky because there's not too many competitors with you. So I want to also talk about like what's missing. A lot of people told me China's like test preparation, just 应试教育 is really bad. It's really bad. It's totally bad. And most of people told me in America, there's like no 应试, all right? And one of the parents, they were talking to me and I feel so amused. It's because they say, oh my God, me and my husband, we try so hard. We finally come to America and I cannot believe that my kids still have to handle all this like standard tests, okay? But it's true because there are like more and more kids to getting into the high school, like college, and there are only certain amount of the colleges, right? So they still have to select the kids. But of course, you have to have like overall ability, not like only one. That's the good part of American system. But what's missing here? Okay, they let you to figure out by yourself. Okay, they let the kids to prepare by themselves. They say you don't need to train anything. You just need to go from nature, let it be, okay, after saying 3 times, and then you realize that, okay, 就是我们常说的是在悄无声息中完成2级分化. That's the American way, right? But what you need to remember, or what you need to tell your kids or tell yourself is like, you need to know what is the true thing, okay? What is the things you have to, do, okay? So I would say take SAT, ACT as part of the 应试 preparation is definitely good for them. First, let them be humble, okay? Because I know a lot of kids, they get high score. It's not because they're so smart. It's because they're humble enough. And I met so many cocky kids, okay? But they deserve to be cocky because they're really awesome. They have like a full GPA. They like do everything. They're like a president everywhere. They show up in every activities, right? However, okay, they cannot get very high score because they're, it's not humble enough, okay? So the high score only belongs to the kids who are humble enough. It's not because this one is easy. Oh, that's so easy. Let me get it. Okay, there's always a trick to be there. You know what I mean? Okay, so let's just show this one and we go to the next step, which is step 6. Set up your mindset. That's what I talk about. I want you to be as humble as possible. Let me show you some humble kids result, all right? Okay, that's going to be something interesting. Okay, first result. I will do like before after. Because when I try to lose my weight, I took picture before and after. And I want to do the same thing. It's like we reshape you, okay? We build up yourself, okay? All right. Before, the kids got like 1,450. And after training, got the 1,560. This is like not like a big jump, but that's like it's good enough, right? And these kids are want to shooting for MIT and UPenn, I think. That's the way I remember. And there's another kid. It's like, before it's really good enough. And he's like, I can do better. Okay, I cannot believe the kid who came to our class is 1,540. And his mom asked me, does he need to retake it? I say, no need, because you're already 99 percentile, right? It's good enough to go. But he's like, oh, I want to have a second try. Things I never like truly prepared for that. I want to see how much higher I can get. So after we train them about like the test strategy, I know a lot of American kids, the teacher never teach them in school. So, and he feel like so, well, every day when I was in class with him, he always says like, wow, okay, wow. And sometimes he will ask me, how did you know this? Okay. And sometimes even he asked me, okay, do you know this? Do you tell us, is this legal? And I say, yeah, this is legal. So I feel like I blow his mind a lot, right? And eventually he got a full score. This is like really proud of him. Okay, this is one of very, very good example. And there's some kids like they got like mock tests like 1,300. Okay, they kind of feel like they lost confidence. They feel like, oh, I get so many mistakes. But actually they just don't know what is the regulation, what is the mindset of the test design, okay? And after they done it, they got like pretty high score. And also I train them, we train them both math and reading and writing and essay part. And none of those kids only train one subject, they train overall. Because you have to take the test as a whole, not as a part of it, okay? Like Dr. Yan said, some kids, they handle one problem. Yeah, we have the kids student like that. They feel so excited. They're like, oh, eventually I finally cracked that question. And then I found like the time's up. I don't have time to do the rest of them. That's not right, okay? You have to manage as a whole one. Okay, so another one is mock test of 1,470 and I got 1,590. This is really good way. And there's some ACT scores. For the mock test, really bad, okay? When she first came here, we give the mock test. This is the mock test, only 28, okay? And I was like, oh my God. And eventually, she got a full score. And he's the hardworking student ever, okay? And very nice girl. And also there's another girl whose mock test is 30, and then it got like 35, 36, 33, 34, okay? All right, and we have some feedback from the students, and either from Dr. Yan's like Math SAT2 or ACT, SAT, we just want to show some of them. And we feel like this is what we love to do and why our passion is here. And you can tell like I'm too passionate about it, right? Okay, all right, so last step, which is like, we're gonna go to our Q&A section, right? Last step is like your motivation. Kind of feel like in the class, I have like a lot of, experiences handle the kids' motivation. This is very important thing. If they close themselves, they don't be open, they're not open, they cannot take anything, okay? So the first thing we do is try to open them, right? I know everything. I don't need anything. My mom pushing me back. I hate my mom. Okay, so I'm here. Okay, I don't want to listen to anybody. So that's a lot of things happen in the beginning. And then we talk to them, we open them, and then things get better. So I would say this is the last step. This is most important, okay? If you're here, if the kids is with you, you need to tell yourself, what do you want, okay? What do you want? So I always share with one of my quote with my students, okay? What is called a discipline? It is just choosing between what you want right now and what you want the most, okay? If what you want the most is strong enough, you will forget about what you want right now. You want to have fun, you want to relax, you want to do whatever, but ask yourself, what do you want the most? That's the most important thing. And as long as you solve that part, step 7, you solved, all the step 6, we can take care for you. But only last step is belong to yourself, okay? All right, so